Who are the players that will miss out on Springbok selection for the World Cup? I'll tackle that right now. Hey guys, welcome back to SkinnyBru Rugby. So the Rugby Championship is finally over. It was only 3 weeks or 4 weeks in total. This weekend it's only friendlies, but it's basically still the Rugby Championship. It's basically a repeat of last weekend, just the reverse fixtures. As Boks supporters, we are now heading closer to the Rugby World Cup team announcement, which is on 24 August this year. So just a week or two from now. So now it's time to start thinking of who will miss out. Just before I talk about that, remember I do a lot of this international content and I will be doing a lot more for the Rugby World Cup. So if you like that, please hit that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. And then join the SkinnyBru pools down in the description below. Here we go. So a while ago I did a video on Rassie's A and B team strategy. That at the moment is a bit more irrelevant because this is probably the last time we'll see the B team playing this weekend against Argentina. But then this slide will look familiar to you. This is the original 40 players that were picked in the squad. It has to be reduced to 31 players for the Rugby World Cup. So that's going to be a tight squeeze to cut 9 players from this team, which is a pretty good mix of players. Here's the two teams as I've figured it out. Who's the first team and second team? The first team at the moment looks to be Coetzee, Marx, Malherbe, Etzebeth, Mostert, Coetzee, Pieterstef de Toey, Vermeulen, then de Klerk, Pollard, de Allende, Mapimpi, Colby and Leroux as the fullback. Then for the second team it looks to be Beast, Mbunambi, Niakane, de Jager, Snyman, Kwagga Smith, Elstad, Flo or Francois Louw, Herschel Yankees, Elton Yankees, Esterhuizen, Kriel. There's actually no backup left wing, Nkosi and then Geland. Well, it's quite difficult to actually say who of these players are in the first team and second team. This is more or less that I've been figuring out of Rassie's plans, but everyone would obviously have their different opinions. But these players more or less are in the first or the second teams. So for the Rugby World Cup, 31 players will be selected, meaning it's basically 2 squads as we have now, making up your 30 players, and then 1 extra player, which is usually a prop, unless you can prove it's better to have someone else in the side, or you pick someone else that's better, like a utility player that can be better than having a second player in a position. But usually that the 31st player is a prop or a hooker, usually a prop. Let's have a closer look at the players I've marked as question marked players. Kopoka, he's been amazing all season for the Bulls. He's one of the best props at the moment. He runs like a center on the field. One of the subscribers said that one day and I've remembered it since then. He really does. Unfortunately, he's at the moment behind Coetzee and Beast in the loose forwards. He's already 29. I actually thought he's a bit younger, but he will get his turn. I think Beast will probably retire after this Rugby World Cup, so he will get his shot at Springbok glory. Then Brits, selection has been questioned all along since the start, and he has barely played since he has been selected. But I think he brings a lot more to the table when it comes to training. He's been helping the guys a lot. He has a lot of knowledge and wisdom to impart on the younger guys. It's a great backup to have in your team as well, especially when there's an injury. It's great to call up someone with a lot of experience, even though it's not internationally wise. He has a lot of experience. I think he has 200 or so caps for Saracens, so he has a lot of experience to back him. So he's someone that can get back into the team within 48 hours and play. Getting onto that, the rules for the Rugby World Cup is if someone is injured, you can call someone up to replace that player, and he can only play 48 hours after being called up. Then another guy I think that might miss out on the Rugby World Cup squad, Koch, he's one of the best tight heads out there. He's just behind Malherbe and Nyakane, probably by the slightest of margins. I don't think he's actually a lot worse than them, but he's just lacking a lot of game time in the box at the moment. So I think he'll probably get an outing this weekend. Thomas du Toit, he's a good prop. Out of all the rest of the props that has been selected, I think he's slightly behind all of them. But I think he's the smartest selection. He's my smartest selection as a number 31 because he's a swinger prop, so he can play both tight head and loose head. But so can Nyakane, but you would want him to rather focus on his role. So Thomas du Toit, he's a good guy to have in your team. Wilco Louw, he's called up to the squad for this last game against Argentina. He was injured for the initial selection, so that was bad for him. He's gonna have to have one hell of a game if he wants to get himself into the Springbok side for the World Cup. Then it's probably a fight between the front rowers because of World Rugby's regulations. You should always have 6 designated front rowers, guys that are experienced and well equipped to play that role. So it has to be 2 hookers and 2 props. So 3 of them on the bench and then 3 starting. So if one of those get injured, you always need that backup player. Otherwise, you are going to fall short of rugby regulations. And you can actually, if you don't field the right squad and have 2 props on your bench and a hooker, you may come into a situation where you lose all your match points of the day. Another guy, Ori, he's competing with Etzebeth, Mostert, Luat de Jager and Snyman. So I can't see him going to the Rugby World Cup. Because another guy like Pieter-Steph du Toit, he can cover lock anyway. So Ori, I don't think he's going to go into the squad unless he gets a rabbit out of a hat for this game. Then Van Staden from the Bulls, he's in a battle between him and Kwagga Smith for that second number 6 in the team, because Coetzee will be the first choice number 6 for sure. He is the captain of the side. He is very similar to Coetzee player wise, so I think Kwagga Smith is probably favourite because he is a different player to Coetzee, so it's kind of bringing someone else into the squad, someone with a bit of a different approach to the game. And Kwagga obviously filled in for Coetzee on number 6 while he was injured, so it's going to be difficult for Van Staden to actually get into the team. But he has been recalled to the team, so he has his last chance to actually get into the squad because he is a brilliant player. Then another guy, it hurts to say, Marcell Coetzee. I think Elstad is favourite at the moment. It's difficult to actually say, but Elstad was selected last time. He's been in talks a lot. He's in better form than Marcell Coetzee as well if you go by the European form. There's no reason Coetzee can't play his way into the team this weekend though, especially because he can cover number 6, 7 and 8. So if he outplays Elstad and he comes into that second player or second team, that's going to be a great guy for us to have in our Springbok side. Then someone I can't believe I'm putting his name on, Reinach. Faf is definitely the number 1 choice, we know that. Then it's basically the battle for that Japan ticket to get to Japan's World Cup for that number 2 spot as a number 9 with Herschel Jantjies. And Herschel is at the lead at the moment of it, but it's just because he's had more game time. So if Reinach doesn't completely blow everyone away with the game this weekend, I will see him missing out this weekend unless Rassie goes with a 3rd scrum half. I wouldn't pick a 3rd scrum half in the team. It is difficult to pick a 3rd scrum half because scrum halves usually just cover one role, and you would ideally want your covers to be able to cover a couple of roles, and that's what Mallet was getting at the other day with Colby being able to slot in at scrum half. It's not the ideal situation, but look, you have 2 options. Say you go with Faf and Jantjies, you just switch them around for every game, and then if someone is injured and his sub comes on and he's injured as well, Colby can actually slot in there. So it's a good option to have. I don't see the point of taking 3 designated number 9s. Look, in the past, coaches went with 3 number 9s in the squad because we had guys like Frans Steyn who could cover wing as well. At the moment, we don't have a scrum half that could cover multiple roles. Then another guy, Frans Steyn, as I said previously, his selection hasn't been justified yet. I see the reasoning behind his selection though. He does cover a lot of roles, but he hasn't gotten enough play time for me. Even though he's gotten a lot of play time from the bench, he hasn't put his stamp on any game. He hasn't even kicked that goal, any long ranges so far. So his selection hasn't been justified so far. So he needs to start this weekend so that we can see what he can do, so that we know why he is in the team. I would like to see him play well because I do like Frans Steyn. I've always liked him. He can cover number 10, 12 and 15. So it's a great player to take with, especially with his experience as well. I think I listed it as 59 caps. So that's good to have behind your back as well. So if he does play well this weekend, I don't see him going as number 31. I do see him taking over Esterhuizen's spot. Unless Esterhuizen starts and he gets an exceptional game. But Esterhuizen also hasn't played well at all. He hasn't put a foot wrong, don't get me wrong there either. We're in a fortunate position where it's more of picking from the bests at the moment than picking from good from bad at the moment. I did do a video going a little bit more in depth into the center combinations. You can find it up here, I will link it there. Then another guy, Diantje, he's purely here because of his injury. If he was back, I would have listed him as our first choice left winger. He is good, and now that he is injured, we actually do have a little bit of a problem that we have one left wing position wide open. No one knows who's gonna cover that. They are expecting him to come back next week for the Lions, but it's been a very grey area for everyone. No one's really talking about in the news. Every time the Lions coaches are asked about his return, they just brush off the question. So yeah, is it too late for his return? I don't think so. I think if he does get back and they say he is back from injury, he will be picked. Unless Leeds or Willemse is taken, I don't see why Diantje won't be picked. Leeds, he was included for this last game against Argentina, so he is part of the structures. He has been part of the structures for a while. He can cover 11, 14 and 15, so it does make sense. He is kind of all-rounder. We do need someone that can cover that other 11 spot. He can even cover number 10 if it's really required. He's not the best number 10 though, but if you really need him, he could play there. And as I said, he is part of the structure, so it's easy for him just to fall in. We just need to see what he can do from a good game, so I think he will play this weekend. And then last but not least, the young Damian Willemse, easily the youngest guy in this team. I think the second youngest guy in the team is 24 or 25. They are expecting him to be back this weekend for the Viapia against the Griquas. Is it too late for him to return? Unless he has a magical game against him, I do think it is too late. But last year he was a shoe-in just to become the second choice number 15 and the third choice number 10. So that idea still has to be in Rassie's mind. So if he has a very good performance, he might get Galant out of the side, who hasn't been great. He hasn't been bad either. Like I said, no player has actually been bad. But the fullback role, both fullbacks haven't really shown what they could actually do. So I would actually like it to see Leroux and Galant play this weekend, because both of them really need to get a good game. Willemse, maybe he gets a shot, but I think he's probably a guy that, unfortunately, his injury just lasted too long. So yeah, that's the players I think that may miss out on the Rugby World Cup team if they don't have a great performance this weekend. They really need to put their best feet forward. And it's a tough call waiting for Rassie, man. It's really a good squad he has assembled. Especially if these guys do deliver on the weekend. it's even worse for him to make a decision, because if some of these guys do put up his hand, it's going to be a very tough call, especially if a guy like Reinach puts up his hand, and he needs to make the call between Herschel Jantjies and Reinach, and some other decisions as well. If Frans Steyn has an amazing game and he needs to make a call between him and some of the other inside centers, and so on and so forth, I wouldn't want anyone dropped. But unfortunately 31 has to go, someone has to be dropped, it's part of rugby. Hopefully the guys that are dropped do understand it, and they do still strive to become Springboks and do still put their best foot forward, or as I said now, foots forward. What do you think? Who do you think is going to be dropped? Who do you think really doesn't deserve to be dropped? Remember to hit that subscribe button if you like this video, and then I'll chat to you again soon. Cheers.